fired up to have John Chapman with us. John is fantastic. I don't know if you guys know John or not, but you should. And he's a great follow on X. And he's with us on the Yuma guest line. But you can follow him at JL_Chapman. And he runs the 49er Rush podcast. He's the creator. He's the host. You can check him out, 49errush.com. And as I said, he's a great follow on X. And he's with us to chap it up. What's up, John? How are you?
In the dream. It's good to talk to you again, brother.
Yeah, it's always great to talk to you. And, there was, why don't we start with what, the rumor of the day, the Packers cut Jair Alexander. It sounds like they were getting ready to trade him. And I always wonder about this when teams would rather cut a player than trade him, but there's also salary cap ramifications. But the odds have the Niners listed as the favorite to land Jair Alexander. And I was throwing it out to the audience in the first segment. If it came down to you can add one big-time corner, you can either add Jair Alexander from Green Bay or Jalen Ramsey from, I guess, Miami is his last stop. Who would you rather have, John, Alexander or Ramsey?
If you could get them at the same price, I think the answer would be Jalen Ramsey, kind of resounding so. But they're completely different price tags. One, you'd have to trade for Jalen Ramsey. His salary is going to be about 3 times that of Jair Alexander. So, yeah, in a bubble, yeah, you're taking Jalen Ramsey completely. But I think with the way the 49ers roster is orchestrated at the end, we're through free agency, we're through the draft, we're through kind of the second wave of free agency and undrafted free agents. I think Jair Alexander is a much more cost-efficient option. Yes, he's been injured throughout the majority of his career recently, but I think you can get him pennies on the dollar, and I really do believe corner is probably the least depth position that the 49ers currently have. Now that they added a lot of nickel slot type corners, but that outside corner position, I understand Amador Lenore is the star in the rising, and Renardo Green, there's a lot of confidence. But outside of those two players, like who is your number 3 outside corner that a snap away, this is going to be who's guarding, Puka Nacua and, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that it's a shallow position, and typically I'd be kind of against adding Jair Alexander because of the off-field antics and kind of, whatever, but they need to add another body there, and he is a capable NFL starter with a long track record. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Why is Green Bay and Brian Gutekunst saying goodbye? I mean, it can't simply be because they signed Nate Hobbs, right? That can't be it, is it? I mean, I know they got some other guys there. They got Carrington Valentine. They've got Kalen King, Kamal Haddon from Tennessee, Javon Bullard, Keyshawn Nixon, who's a pretty good special teamer. But it seems like they need Jair Alexander. I'm kind of surprised that they're saying goodbye. Is there some reason for this outside of the cap or, what meets the eye? Because to me, this is a good football player.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the injuries. They paid him kind of top corner money. They did not get top corner consistent play with the injuries. And he has been very outspoken in the locker room in ways. Now, this is a team captain voted on by the players for the Packers, but it really hasn't panned out well since the injuries, and he's not the type of person that's going to keep his mouth shut when things aren't going incredibly well. So I think it's, the injuries, the cap, the attitude, but I will argue I put the 49ers locker room up against almost any team in the NFL when you have maybe 7 to 8, qualified, pillars of what it means to be a football player and a team captain and all those things. So I think the 49ers could kind of bring on that risk a little bit. Yeah, I don't think it's a slam dunk by any stretch, but it does make a lot of sense. And again, if this Jair Alexander conversation happened before the draft or before free agency, I would say no way. But whenever you're looking out amongst the NFL and the free agents that are available to bring in, I think that this is a position that needs to be addressed. Very similar, it was defensive end 2 weeks ago. You talked about the need for bringing in Bryce Huff before the trade even happened. And I think that since you address the defensive end, the outside cornerback position is now probably the most paramount, crucial position that could use more depth.
I love Lenore, and I'm a big fan of Green. Stouts look good on the practice field, but I will say he is small. I mean, he is a very small player. Um, so those three guys are going to make it, right? You got to have 5 or 6 corners. It's the balance of the group that I just don't know about. I mean, they brought in 7 new corners over the last year or so. Trey Brown, Trey Avery, Chase Lucas, Darrell Luter, Dallas Flowers, Saran Neal, and then they even signed a couple undrafted free agents that have some talent. Jacob Robinson, who played at BYU, Derek Canteen, who played at Cincinnati. I kind of like those undrafted guys maybe a little bit more than some of the veterans. What do you think, John? Do you see 5? I mean, you got to have 5 good corners. They haven't played one practice. They haven't had one opportunity to get injured, and I don't know that they got 5 good corners on the roster. I'm sure they feel they do. I'm just not sure if I agree. What do you think? Do you like beyond Green, Demo, and Stout? Do you see 3 more corners there that are NFL caliber?
It's funny because I think that you do have that, but they're all nickel guys. They're all slot only, undersized kind of corners. And so, again, back to my issue, like, okay, let's say we have 3, and, I really like Jacob Robinson, priority free agent out of BYU. He's awesome. I like Derek Canteen, who came out and won the 49ers rookie tryout. They brought him in. But man, the outside corner spot is just what scares me because Darrell Luter Jr., what has he shown at any point in the 3 years he's been with the 49ers special teams or defense? Literally nothing so far. Maybe he takes a step up. Maybe Trey Brown can finally stay healthy. This is somebody that's missed almost 40 games in 3 years. He's injured more than Jair Alexander is. And so can one of those guys, Dallas Flowers, I like him, but last year he got torched. You go back and you watch Dallas Flowers against, for the Colts, he was starting for him. He gave us 2 touchdowns in one game against the Jags, and then they cut him like immediately after the game. So not a lot to be hopeful for. The Niners they're throwing all these darts, and they're saying, we just need 2. We need 2 guys to hit out of these 6. Somebody's got to pan out. And that's assuming Upton Stout, the rookie, 3rd-round rookie pick that's undersized. I really like his tape. I like what he's made up of. But the 49ers are assuming almost their entire rookie class is going to hit at some level, and there's not much buffer built into the depth of this roster to embrace if you only have a 30% hit rate with draft picks, which would be incredible for most teams. The Niners are relying on that rookie class a little too much, if you ask me.
I'll tell you one thing that concerns me is just the Niners' ability to handicap their own roster. 2 years ago, they signed Isaiah Oliver and they cut Deshaun Jameson. And Deshaun Jameson's way better than Isaiah Oliver. Last year, they did it again. They cut Samuel Womack and they kept Isaac Yiadom and Rock Ya-Sin. And what did Womack do? He went to the Colts and had a really good year. And I get the sense they're going to do it again. They gave a couple $1 million of Jed's money to Saran Neal, but they have this Jacob Robinson who had 11 career interceptions at BYU, and Canteen, I think, had 9 in his. So you got 2 really productive young interceptors, guys who can play the corner. And I get the sense that, we'll see, but I know they paid Neal a couple $1 million, and Neal's never run good. I mean, he's a 4.54. He's a special teams ace, but I don't know what he can do from scrimmage. And I'd hate to see the Niners cut another good, young, cheap corner for the 3rd year in a row just because they made a mistake in free agency and they're trying to protect their mistake. I don't want to see that. I want to see the best players make the team regardless of their decisions in free agency.
Yeah, and, to even make that sound worse than, what you laid out, they even kept an injured Ambry Thomas over. You remember, he made the initial 53-man roster, then they put him on IR, and that was another player that never played one snap for the 49ers last year and threw a fit and got released halfway through the season. So it's bad. Now, I would like to hope that a lot of that is chalked up on Nick Sorensen. who's, worked with the corners for 3 years, leading up into probably the worst defensive coordinator in 49ers history with what happened last year. So that didn't happen under Robert Saleh. And so now Daniel Bullets, he was a guy that was around, but you bring in Coach Ray Brown. And I think that that's paramount because, we had Jacob Robinson, the undrafted free agent from BYU. He was recruited by Coach Brown at BYU and before BYU whenever he transferred in. So the relationship and the reason why Jacob Robinson chose the Niners, he had about 5 other offers from other NFL teams, was he wanted to play and work with Coach Brown. And so maybe things are anew with Robert Saleh returning and Coach Brown coming to help, in the defensive back room. Hopefully those poor personnel decisions are behind the 49ers because they have to stick this landing. You have not given yourself much room for mistake when – look, I love Renardo Green, and I think sky is the limit, but he did not finish a lot of games. You are not only relying on Renardo Green, you're saying this guy's going to start 14-plus games, stay healthy, and improve from the level he was at last year. Now, hopefully that happens, but you're just counting on a lot of youth and young players to really come through. So I wouldn't be shocked if they keep an extra corner. Definitely somebody that can contribute on special teams, but they need quality bodies in that room, and somebody's got to come out shining.
Well, I'll say this too. I mean, you saw Justin Jefferson just flush the combo of Odom and whoever it was trying to cover him week 1 or whatever, week 2.
Jair Brown.
Yeah, Jair, and he just ran right by them like they were standing still. Jacob Robinson runs in the 4.3s, like 4.36, 4.35, something like that. And he's a little slight, but 11 career interceptions and 4.3 speed. I mean, the 49ers, I can't, they haven't had a 4.3 corner in a long, long time. And you got to have speed. That's where the 4.3 matters, is when you're playing corner or receiver. When you're on the perimeter, that's when you got to have that big time speed. I'd like to see them, maybe give Canteen and Robinson a look, a real look, and even if that means they got to cut, some known special teams aces, then you gotta win from scrimmage too. I'll tell you 2 guys that I really like in that secondary though. I loved what I saw from Richie Grant, and I really like what I'm seeing and hearing from Jason Pinnock. Dieter was telling me the other day that the Niner people really believe in the football intellect of Marquise Siegel, who also runs in the 4.3. So that gives me a little bit of encouragement. Obviously, Malik Mustafa is their best safety. He's out. Jair Brown needs to bounce back. But, John, Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock and Siegel, it sounds like they got 3 guys there that might be able to really help them.
And, again, you're looking at these young for those jobs outside of Diamador, Lenore, Renardo Green. It's going to be young, inexperienced corners. And so what you want to do just from a football coaching perspective is the quarterback of the defense is going to be those safety spots. Well, Richie Grant, experience, Pinnock, experience with Robert Saleh, those guys can make the young corners are where they need to be on the back end. So that was another one of the things that was kind of a microcosm of the 49ers defense last year. You were having busted coverages in week 15, 16, 17 that just never got fixed throughout the entirety of the year. Even in man coverage, there were busted assignments. So if you can simplify with Robert Saleh's defensive scheme, by far one of the more simplistic coverage schemes that's more consistent. You don't run as much, but you run it well. So you pair the young corners with experienced safeties to start that have experience in Robert Saleh's scheme. I think that that's a good recipe. So if you're going youth on the outside, man, partner that with experience at the safety position. Even though Malik Mustafa is probably not going to be ready week 1, Jair Brown, but you have the experience. You have the command. You're going to be calm, cool, collected out there. And by the way, you are starting out week 1 with a division opponent. So there's no time to kind of warm into and get people's feet wet. You got to hit the ground running.
Yeah. No, Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith, Najigba. I mean, you better be ready on the corner come week 1. And every week it's going to be a new tandem. SB Nation had a poll question. They had an article out. Who has the most to prove for the 49ers this season? Shanahan, 52%. Now, that to me seems way, way askew. So Shanahan's got the most to prove. And Brock Purdy's second with 30%, Saleh 9%, and Lynch 9% tied for third. I would say Lynch has more to prove than Shanahan, but I understand that. Shanahan, a lot of people view John as just like it's Shanahan's show. So it's, everything stems from Kyle. So I get that, I guess, but it does seem hyper negative considering, they've been to 2 Super Bowls outside of the Chiefs and maybe the Eagles. Is there any other team that has been better since 2017 in the NFL than the San Francisco 49ers under Kyle Shanahan? If I threw that question to you, who or what has the most to prove this upcoming season for the Niners? Who's on your list?
I would say Chris Forrester or Jake Brendel. Like those are kind of the two names. Chris Forrester, who's the 49ers offensive line coach. The 49ers chose not to do any changes really at all to the 49ers offensive line. They've gone 3 consecutive years, the only team in the NFL, to go 3 consecutive years without drafting 1 offensive tackle or 1 center, the only team. And so, yeah, the scheme, the Shanahan scheme and all those things, but man, can Jake Brendel take any steps forward? Can he become an adequate center? The athleticism's there. He gets the play calls right. I understand all those things, but the lack of play strength, and maintaining blocks in crucial situations that's just been kind of who his career is. Now, he's not paid like a top flight center, but that would be my number one. Can the offensive line continue to gel? Dominique Puni was a huge home run. And so you add that to Trent, Williams, Colton McKivitz, probably going to, we know what he is now. Can Ben Bartch step up? The offensive line, if it plays well and can improve from what we've seen the past couple of years, this team, sky's the limit. Obviously they didn't make the playoffs last year, but if players stay healthy and the offensive line improves, I think that's what is most on the line. So Chris Forrester and Jake Brendel would be my top 2.
Okay, those are good. And I agree with those. I think Forster's kind of a little bit more of a made man in NFL circles. But I definitely agree with you that the offensive line is going to be, you can't not draft an offensive lineman until the 7th round when you have this level of a need and think that it's not going to, that it's not going to be an issue. I would imagine it is going to be an issue. But I would say I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall and Mykel Williams. Just from the standpoint of, Ricky told everybody he's not injury prone, but guess what? He's injury prone. And Mykel Williams never had the kind of production to justify being the highest drafted player on the entire roster. And yet that's what he is. He's the highest drafted player on the roster. So I would say Pearsall's got to prove that he's worthy of his draft status. And I think Mykel Williams has got to show that, just because they drafted him based on traits and he didn't have great production, that there were legitimate reasons for his lack of production. And, he kind of produces in the NFL. To me, I think those two guys, the Niners haven't had a pick as high as Mykel Williams in a long, long time. And, since Lance, before that, it had been a while. And Pearsall, he looked good for 2 games, but he looked bad for the 6 games before that. So he was running around not getting much done. So those are my 2, Pearsall, and I could go with some other guys as well. I think it's a big year for CMC. I think it's a big year for Isaac Orendo. I think it's a big year for Jacob Cowing. But if I had to go with 2 players, and if I guess I would go 1 offense, 1 defense, 1 special teams, it would probably be Pearsall, Mykel Williams, Jake Moody.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? I think the player that profited the most from the Bryce Huff trade was Mykel Williams, because now the pressure is kind of off. Everybody knows Mykel Williams is a solid A-plus run defender. Now he gets to be just that and then develop into a pass rusher. Very similar and just the opposite with what Aldon Smith did in his time with the 49ers. He was just a pass rusher his rookie year and developed into a true three-down lineman. I really love it when teams buttress kind of the safety net for top-end draft picks and allow them to develop into the player that they are. The lack of production in the pass rush game, yeah, it was a big red flag for Mykel Williams, but the traits, the upside, the quality play in big-time games. You go back and watch that SEC championship game against Texas. He was the best player on the field for either team. He literally won that SEC championship game for the Georgia Bulldogs. And so the 49ers are hoping that kind of translates. Now, Ricky Pearsall, you're betting a lot that he's going to continue. Last year, even before before he got shot, I think he might have had 4 training camp practices altogether because he had multiple hamstring issues and a shoulder issue. Now, he overcame all that and delivered, but can he build on that into the rookie season? Because now you need him to constantly be a consistent presence on this offense until Brandon Ayuk gets back at worst. So, man, he's got to get through this. He's got to be able to get some reps because, man, you don't even know who your top 3 wide receivers are for week 1. And if Ricky Pearsall is going to miss time, it's Jawan Jennings and fill in the blank because Demarcus Robinson would be the answer. He's probably going to get suspended. So who are your number 2, number 3, number 4 wide receivers if Pearsall is going to miss time? Now, thankfully, it doesn't seem like this is a long-lasting injury, but back-to-back off seasons, his only 2 off seasons, hamstring issues continue, and that's a major issue. Hopefully he gets over that.
Biggest concern on the roster right now for you?
Major depth in that outside corner spot. I think you have 2 great corners. You got to have an outside corner step up. I'm not sure it's on the roster currently.
If I said I'm worried about Alfred Collins, and for those who don't know, John from Texas and has spent a lot of time in Texas. And Collins played at University of Texas. He's a UT Longhorn. I'm just concerned. He looks awesome, and I know he played like 48 of 49 games, but I'm just concerned with anybody who's that long, that kind of long legs, levers, and that he's going to be injury prone. And sure enough, thus far he has not gotten on the field. Is Collins' injuries a concern?
It's a calf strain partnered with a contract issue. There's currently only 3 second-round draft picks that have signed throughout this draft. That's it. So there's kind of a standstill with the guaranteed money. Are they going to get it? Are they not going to get it because it's kind of extended? And so everybody's kind of waiting. I am not at all concerned with Alfred Collins in his injury. I mean, this is somebody that played for 5 years at Texas and missed 1 game. He is the definition of an Iron Man, but yeah, he has had a calf strain for a while. Once his contract gets worked out and all those things, we'll have to see how it goes. But you're getting my favorite thing about Alfred Collins, and I'm a Longhorn, hook 'em. I'm biased here. He shows up in the biggest moments of the biggest games so consistently. When you need that goal line stop, 4th down stop in the 4th quarter, the dude just turns it on. He is as clutch a defensive lineman as I've seen come through the Texas program. They've had nothing but, day 1, day 2 draft picks on that defensive line for 5 consecutive years. He is as clutch as they get. And so I think 49ers fans are going to love them.
So, Chapman, you're saying Krueger, pump the brakes, don't worry about Collins. Is that what you're saying?
I think he's going to have the biggest impact of any rookie that was drafted, even over Mykel Williams this year.
Wow.
Alfred Collins will be a fan favorite in no time.
That is awesome. All right, I'm taking that one to the bank. Bold prediction. You and I have done this on some live streams, and I always love it because it's, you'll make a bold prediction, and sometimes – the bold predictions, sometimes it seem real bold in June. By the time we get to September is not, pretty damn reasonable. I threw this to Dieter the other night, and Dieter was like, the Niners will finish with a top 5 offensive line in the league, which I thought was I thought that was bold. That was bold. I've got a couple bold predictions of my own, but I'll throw it to you, Chapman. Give me a bold prediction.
The 49ers in the 2025 season will have not one, but two offensive linemen have all-pro seasons. I think Dominic Purdy will join Trent Williams as a first-team All-Pro in his second year. I think that kid's sky's the limit. So if those two guys can hold it down and the other three offensive linemen can elevate their play, maybe Peter's not wrong, but I think you have two stalwarts. And I think Dominic Purdy could have an All-Pro year this year if he stays healthy. He is just absolutely phenomenal.
He is. That's a good one. I'll give you a couple bold predictions. I think Tanner Mordecai is going to outplay Mac Jones. Now, I don't know that he's going to get the job, but I just get the feeling that Tanner Mordecai, who's been in the system, better athlete, way better runner, probably a stronger arm, knows the receivers, knows the offense, as opposed to Mac, who just came in. You know, I know Mac's likely was signed to be the number 2 guy. I think everybody believes he's going to be the number 2 guy. I'm just going to say it right now. Tanner Mordecai is going to outplay Mac Jones this summer and in the preseason. I don't know if it's going to result in anything, but you and I will talk at the end, at the cutdown day, and Mordecai will, in both of our minds, will be better than Mac Jones. That's one of my bold predictions.
Well, Larry, if there's anybody that can make bold predictions on quarterbacks, it's you. You nailed the Brock Purdy. And so, hey, man, maybe it's the Brock Purdy, Tanner Mordecai show for years to come. I would be very happy.
Yeah, seriously. Which linebacker starts next to Fred Warner week 1? Martin or Winters?
Going D. Winters early. I don't think that it's a negative if Nick Martin is the third linebacker in kind of bigger personnel packages. But I think D. Winters, he's had a great OTAs. And I really think that they're going to give the veteran the chance. And I want Nick Martin to win that job in games. I want it to get to the point where there's no way you can leave Nick Martin on the sideline because he's grown into his role. But again, week 1 against Seattle, I want experience. I want D. Winters, and I want Nick Martin playing that third role. That's what I want. And eventually he fights and takes away the job of the number 2 by the bye week, probably before the bye week. But that would be ideal. I think that's best case for that linebacker group.
John, last one. We appreciate you jumping on KNBR tonight. We always love rapping with you. Give me a storyline or a subplot of the mandatory minicamp over the next 2 days that you will be following the most.
You got to know that wide receiver rotation, and that's what I want to know from you, Larry. Your eyes on the ground. Who's getting those starting reps? It's not going to be Ricky Pearsall. Is it Jacob Cowing in the slot, or is Jacob Cowing getting outside wide receiver snaps in that Z role? Is Jordan Watkins, whenever he's in there, is he just running clear out routes? Are they actually designing plays to get him the ball? Who's going to step up in that wide receiver room? Because obviously everybody knows what Juwan Jennings brings to the table. You know what George Kittle, but the wide receiver position with Ayuk out and now Ricky Pearsall out, what is that rotation going to be? Is Isaiah Hodgins or one of the vets going to take some of those snaps? Because that's a huge question mark for this offense. And we've seen the 49ers offense stall when you don't have the wide receivers. So I want to see who gets those rotational snaps in with the ones, what that looks like.
Yeah, I would say, okay, so obviously Debo's gone. Ayuk's out until November, most likely. Pearsall, Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, who looks like a ton, and Jacob Cowing, I would say are your 5 best receivers. I would say you're probably going to keep 5. You might go with 6. If you're going for that 6 spot, I think it comes down to Isaiah Hodgins, the veteran, who's got a lot of experience. Malik Knowles, who's got a little bit of Debo in him as far as he's a little bit of a runner / receiver. And this kid, Isaiah Nayer, is just absolutely spectacular. I mean, undrafted free agent rookie receivers just don't make the team very much. They just don't. But this kid, Isaiah Nayer, has one of the most beautiful, strides you'll ever see. I mean, he is a legit 6'5". He's a legit 4'4" flat guy. He's got really long arms. He's already made 3 or 4 plays that make you go, wow. So I don't know. I think they're going to be looking around at the cut down for one more wide receiver. I don't think it's going to be Bergen. I don't think it's going to be Owens' kid. I don't think it's going to be Russell Gage. I think it's either going to be Nair, Hodgins, or Knowles to go with their front 5, or maybe I could see a Malachi Corley or somebody like that, who gets cut, being signed. But they probably do need one more receiver, but I don't think they want to get a veteran to clog it up just in case Watkins, Nair, Bergen, some of these Knowles, some of these younger guys come of age. I'll leave you with this. I'll finish this sentence on your way out. When you go to camp this summer, keep an eye on who? Fill in the blank.
My easy answer is CJ West. That's my easy answer. But my answer I want to give and who I'm going to be watching is Matt Hennessy. Can you get some push from the backup center? And I think if you get any competition there whatsoever, that would be huge. Man, if you got quality center play, this offensive line could start to be incredible. Matt Hennessy is the guy I want to see. Coming off an injury, but his best tape is way better than anything Jake Brendle's ever put up. That would be key for me.
I'll say watch out for Austin Pleasance, and a little bit of a 1A, watch out for Isaac Guerendo. Watching Guerendo on the practice field, it's like a practice field full of Ford Tauruses, and then there's a Ferrari. I mean, it's just, he stands out.
Man.
Yeah, he's so big, so fast, so explosive. Watch for Guerendo to really make an impact this year. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. John, great stuff, man. Thanks for jumping on KNBR. If people aren't already following John, they should. He is the 49er Rush podcast creator and host, 49errush.com on the web, JL_Chapman on Twitter, on X. John, thanks for jumping on KNBR, man. We always appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Larry. Thanks for all you do for the community, man.